Welcome to my parents' kitchen. I'm Rebecca Pouillet and I am a French pastry school graduate from 2015 and I work at a hotel in Chicago. So I am here today to show you how to make something different. We're gonna make gluten-free cinnamon rolls. So I have celiac disease, so I can't eat any gluten. So I've worked a lot in my career to develop different gluten-free recipes. This is a recipe I found online at King Arthur Flour, but I've changed it to make it my own. So it's pretty cool. So everything you know about gluten, you just throw out the window when making this recipe. Actually, it's probably good to have some knowledge, but most of the techniques and things are going to be a little bit different than what we do. So let's get started. So in my mixing bowl, I have flour, sugar, salt, yeast, and softened butter. And what we're going to do is we're going to mix that with a paddle, not a dough hook. Because this has no gluten, the dough hook would just tear at the dough. This is going to mix it so we can kind of get something that we're looking for. So we're gonna mix this till it sands the dough. So you want little pieces of butter around the flour. I wanna go completely where the butter's incorporated because we're gonna let our liquids do that. So in this container, I have warm milk, oil, an egg, and a little bit of vanilla, and we're gonna add this to our mixture just till it combines. All right, so that's combined. It looks nothing like a dough that you would see before. Again, there's no gluten. So because there's no gluten, there's no structure forming in this dough to hold any of the to give the strength that will allow it to be elastic and allow the yeast to produce carbon dioxide and hold it into the dough. So that's why it kind of looks different. Now the next step is very important. We're gonna mix on high speed, on medium to high speed for 3 minutes. And you wanna go the full 3 minutes. So set a timer, do whatever you have to do to remind yourself to do 3 minutes. I'm gonna scrape down the side of the bowl first, just so it incorporates really well. All right, I just stopped the mixer, and this is what your dough will look like. It's not going to look like any bread dough or cinnamon roll dough that you've ever seen before. Again, there's no gluten. So we do have to let this rest so that the yeast has time to do its thing, start making carbon dioxide and deliciousness. So what you're gonna do is clean off the beater or the paddle, and then you want to scrape the sides again and kind of form it into a ball the best you can. Like I said, it's a little bit more difficult because it's gonna be sticky because there's no gluten development, but we do the best we can. So that's how you should have it looking. And we're gonna cover this with plastic or a dish towel. And then we'll let it sit for an hour to an hour and a half. And usually I start at an hour and I check on it. And if I think it needs more time, I'll go to an hour and a half. All right, so while our dough is resting, it's taking a lovely nap, we are going to make the filling. So the filling is just brown sugar, cinnamon, and softened butter. And now you can do this in the mixer, but I don't like wasting dishes or having to do unnecessary dishes when I need my mixing bowl. So I'm just gonna use a fork and this bowl and just mix it up. Now, a lot of people, when they make cinnamon rolls, they make a cinnamon smear, which is similar to this. It has a little bit more liquid, and you spread it on your cinnamon rolls. Well, with gluten-free cinnamon rolls, you can't do that. We need to make a crumble. So that's why we're making a crumble today. So when you try to spread anything on gluten-free dough, you are going to have a very difficult time. You will rip the dough because there's no strength in it. So we found that it is easier to make a crumble and just to spread and sprinkle things onto the dough. So this is coming together. So you can see how this is not spreadable, but this will be, we'll break this up with our hands and make it into smaller pieces just to sprinkle onto our dough. So that's ready, and we'll let this continue to rest. So we're all set up for our next set. All right, so it's been about an hour and 15 minutes, and this is what our dough looks like. It's doubled in size. It smells very delicious. So we're gonna get set up. I already went ahead and set up, but this is what you'll need. You'll need your crumble. You need a glass of milk with a brush. You want a piece of parchment paper about a little bit bigger than 18 inches long, and you want to grease that parchment paper. You will thank me later for greasing that parchment paper. It will help you so much when you're going to roll. And then you want a muffin tin already greased. So we're going to scrape the dough out of the bowl onto our parchment paper. All right, then we can set that aside. So as you can see, the dough, there's no gluten again, and I'm gonna stress this all the time. There's no smooth side, there's no structure, so we're not gonna use a rolling pin or a sheeter to sheet this. We're gonna use our hands. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna form it into about an 18 by 8 rectangle. And the best way that I have learned to do this is to get your hands wet and then to press the dough out. So my hands are wet, and if you see, because my hands are wet, the dough is not sticking to it. So we're gonna spread this out as evenly as possible. So if you start sticking to the dough, just get your hands wet again. As you can see, we're trying our best to form this into that rectangle. If you can't get to 18 by 8, don't worry about it. It's not the end of the world. So this is about where I'm gonna stop. So we have a nice rectangle, even sides. So I'm gonna wash my hands real quick. So then we are going to take our milk and our brush, and we're gonna brush the milk on to the dough. And what this does is it prevents the dough from sticking to the filling. So then you have those nice layers in your cinnamon roll. And don't worry if you can't get the dough completely even. It has taken a lot of practice for me to know when the dough is even when shaping it. All right, so all of that is covered with milk. So now we're going to put our crumble down. So the best way, you want to leave about a ½ inch to an inch on all the sides when you put your filling down. So you're gonna just crumble it. So if I try to spread it, you see how the dough tears? That's why we can't spread it. Now luckily I can fix it. So this is why we crumble it on top, and we just kind of lightly press down onto it. Now if you want more filling, feel free to make more filling. I think I made a little bit more than the recipe calls for, because I do like a little bit extra filling. So you can kind of spread it a little bit, but don't go overboard. All right. Our filling is pretty well spread, so I'm gonna wash my hands again. Comes the fun part, rolling. So a lot of times when we roll dough, we start at a corner and we pinch. We can't do that because if we tried, you see it's just tearing. So there's no way to pinch the dough. So what we do, and this is why we grease our paper, is we start folding it on to itself until we can roll it into a nice log. And then instead of picking it up, I just rotate the paper. So then you want a serrated knife, not a regular knife. I did this before and I did a regular knife and it made a mess. So what we do is we're gonna cut off the ends because there's no filling. And then you wanna cut about 8 pieces. If you want them a little bit smaller, cut more pieces. If you want them a little bit bigger, cut less. 8 pieces does good, so usually I do 1, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 7 pieces that will be good. And so then you just go down. Don't worry, it's gonna make a mess. There's nothing you can do about it. All right. So now comes the fun part. You might want to wet your hands again for this part because you're going to be picking them up and putting them in the muffin tin. So we're going to use a muffin tin. A lot of times you put them in like a jelly roll pan or a roasting pan. What we're going to do is, because there's no gluten, when these proof, they're going to proof in a way that they're going to take the shape of whatever container they're in. So we want round, nice round cinnamon rolls. So we put them in muffin tins. And so what we do is we pick it up and we're gonna just push it down a little bit so that it fits and it takes that shape. And do it again with the next one. I like to spread them out because you're only getting 6 to 7 pieces. So I just spread them so that they have room to proof. And there you go. See, this one I didn't cut off enough, but that's okay. It's still gonna taste good. We don't have to worry about it. All right, so now that these are done, we are going to set them aside and let them proof from 45 minutes to an hour. And like I said, again, I'll start at 45 minutes and then check on them. And if they're ready, then I'll do it. You can proof them at room temperature. You can just cover them. I like to just put them in the cold oven and then let them proof that way. So we'll be back in about 45 minutes. All right, so it's been about an hour and you can see that they proofed very nicely. So about 10 minutes before you're done proofing, go ahead and preheat your oven. Don't forget that if your cinnamon rolls are in the oven, to take them out. That is a key component to this because you don't want to start baking them prematurely. So then what we're gonna do is we'll put them in the oven and bake them for 20 to 25 minutes. I like them a little bit darker, so I go for 25 minutes. All right, so while our cinnamon rolls bake, we need to make the frosting because the cinnamon roll isn't complete without the frosting, some people would say. So we're gonna make just a simple cream cheese frosting. I have sifted powdered sugar, some softened cream cheese, and some softened butter, and there's some vanilla in there too. You're just gonna mix it up on the mixer till it becomes frosting. It is important to sift your powdered sugar because you just don't want lumps of powdered sugar in your frosting. It's kind of a weird texture, so. All right, there's our frosting. And so it's ready for our cinnamon rolls. It's important to have this done before the cinnamon rolls come out of the oven because you want to frost them while they're still warm so that that frosting can get in there and become all nice and gooey. So we'll be back as soon as the cinnamon rolls come out. Ooh. Look at those. They smell good too. So you can see our layers separated, which looks really good. So we're gonna go ahead and ice them, and I just use a flat spatula and smear it on there. You can put as much or as little. My mom would say more. That one just broke, but that's okay. Now you can let these cool to eat them, or you can just eat them hot. It's up to you. I'll go ahead and unmold one so you can see what it looks like. So I'm molded, I'm just gonna take a fork and stick it down, but if you grease the pan well enough, you should be able to just pick it up and plop it down. And there you go. So I hope you enjoyed learning how to make gluten-free cinnamon rolls. Thanks, bye.